next topic I want to move on to here, and this is maybe surprising for some people, but what I am most excited about personally for the future of Tesla is TeslaBot. It's, ever since this has been introduced and talked about, I think this is going to be the most game-changing product of anything anyone's going to make, Tesla or otherwise, and it's going to change our future. I mean, think of the advances in robotics and AI over the past few years, and think 5 years from now, everything's going to be different. We're not going to be able to recognize the world. That's my opinion. So we have Dr. Scott Walter and John from Dr. Know-It-All, and I want both of your opinions on this.
Well, wait, can I start by saying please don't name your channel Dirty Tesla Bot, because that's going to have a whole new meaning. So yeah, let's avoid that, please.
I will not be naming it Dirty Tesla Bot. No.
Thank you.
I'm taking that right now. That is a cash cow channel right there.
So
the OnlyFans.
So Scott, do you want to do a quick self-introduction, let the people know who you are, and then give us your thoughts on TeslaBot, and John, you can follow up.
Yeah, so hello, I'm Scott Walter, and I am kind of a Michigander and also a Floridian, so feels like I'm home right now. But before we really get into it, I really have to say thank you to Kelly. Kelly, where are you? Where's Kelly Sloan?
Straight back that way.
And Bert and Kelly Sloan. They are responsible for this, and they are responsible for inviting me here. And part of the reason they invited me here is I met them for the first time again at the Monroe May the 4th Be With You event about 6 weeks ago, and I had to drive back down to Florida right afterwards. So I was driving down with my son, and we did the first thing every Tesla owner does, is we pull into the first Buc-ee's we see. And you know, I went into the Porcelain Palace, and I'm looking at the fixture, and right on the fixture are the letters SLOAN. And I did what anyone would do at that point, is I whipped out my camera and took a picture of it. The urinal. And I sent the picture to Kelly with the inscription that said, "Thinking of you and Bert." And she then sent a picture back of a roll of Scott toilet paper and said, "Thinking of you too." So one thing I've learned is don't mess with Tesla, don't mess with Kelly Sloan. So once again, thank you very much, Kelly. So back to the topic. As you know, I've spoken a lot about the Optimus robot because I have a background in manufacturing. That's why I've spent a lot of time in Michigan, working with industrial robots for about 40 years now. And when I saw the Tesla bot, it was like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for. The missing piece has always been the brain. So we now have a brain. The mechanics are still a little bit of a challenge, but it's something that can be surpassed, and we'll be able to accomplish that. But I want everyone to think right now, do you remember what the world was like in 2007? In 2007, you did not have a smartphone at all. We almost forget what the world was like. And it's really changed the way we live an awful lot. And that's the same kind of thing we're going to be seeing with Optimus. And again, this is something that Tony Seba and Rethink X has talked about again and again. The reason why the smartphone came into existence around 2008 was because of a convergence of technologies. All the pieces came together that allowed it to happen that year. That's what happened in 2008 and not 2009, because 2009 the pieces were already there. 2007 they weren't there. And right now, because of all these advances in AI, which Dr. Know-It-All over here will be able to tell you about, it's possible, because the problem has always been convincing the robot to do what you want it to do. And John, I'll let you kind of pick it up from there.
Hey folks, try to keep the mic off because it's a little windy out. But so yeah, Dr. Know-It-All on YouTube and X, and I teach animation and simulation and design work and all that kind of good stuff at the University of Georgia. So nice to be up here. I'm actually an Ohioander, I guess it's not, but anyway. So it's nice to be back in the Midwest after a very long absence, and thank you for the hospitality. So as far as the bots are concerned, I think everyone, including Ark Invest recently, Elon was really pumping them during the shareholder meeting. By the way, 3 of us at the shareholder meeting, so this is a pretty good crowd here. So, and I think you could have gone too, right? Yeah, you got offered, but I know. So the poor odd man out here. But anyway, Elon was talking about how Ark Invest wasn't even taking account of Optimus yet in their valuation of the company. And I think even Ark Invest doesn't want to look quite that crazy to the public. But when you start looking at this, we were just talking about it. Elon specifically said he could see a $25 trillion per year opportunity with Optimus, and then you add another 5 or 6 trillion for the other things like cars, robotaxi, stuff like that, which again is tiny compared to that. And then you do a 10x multiple of how much this thing, it's kind of nuts. It's wait, there's no company that could be worth $300 trillion. But that's not even an aggressive multiple at that point.
More on that in a minute. But first, with AI potentially lengthening our lifespans by decades, it's even more important than ever for us all to take care of our skin to keep it looking and feeling healthy no matter our age. The trouble is, I'm no skincare expert, and that's why today's sponsor, Geology, is a great skincare partner. They have scientifically created a number of skincare solutions based on your own unique age, skin type, and other factors. You take a simple quiz, and Geology's smart algorithms determine what you need for optimal skincare. I'm care routine number 30, and it's great for my skin. Geology is scientifically based, built around proven ingredients, trusted by dermatologists, and people love Geology. It's gotten over 10,000 five-star reviews and turned many a skeptic into a believer. And best yet, Geology is simple, efficient, and very effective. Take their quiz, get your personalized skincare routine mailed directly to you, follow their super simple instructions in the morning and at night, and get better, younger looking skin in no time. And just for you, my viewers, Geology is offering an amazing 70% off their skincare trial set. Be sure to click my link below to get this amazing deal, or feel free to check them out at Target or on Amazon. I love Geology because it's powered by facts, not fads. It's a simple-to-use routine designed just for you and built around just a handful of powerful, proven ingredients that have been trusted by dermatologists for decades. So what are you waiting for? Be sure to take the Geology quiz and save 70% off your skincare trial set. And now let's get back to it.
I think that we're looking at a future, not that the stock price is everything, that's not my big thing, but I think it represents the kind of size that you're talking about. That's a couple of orders of magnitude larger than the largest company in the world right now. It's on the order of $2 or $3 trillion, depending on the day. But you have to kind of wrap your head around this. And Scott and I we just did a video this morning, and I said, it's got to be something like the early 20th century when the first couple of automobiles came out. And people looked at it and they said, well, what is that thing? The horses are better than them. They're slow, they're fumey, all this kind of stuff. Nobody 110, 115 years ago could have imagined this. The way that the world's transformed, the way that we arrived in Detroit yesterday morning at 9:30, and in just 3 or so hours we're able to get here, whereas before the automobile, that was a multi-day trip. It was not anything that was really realistically possible. You have to kind of set your brain to think about that. It's like these first few robots don't seem like that much, but it's a tidal wave. It's that what Tony Seba calls a phase change transition. It's going to change the nature of reality, and it's going to take a decade or two before it really gets going. But then we'll see it.
Yeah, there were a few things we learned at the shareholder meeting that were not really known yet, and a few other things that we'll try to let everyone know. So the first thing is everyone put up your hands like this. Okay, so you're able to do that right. You're able to put your hands together like that right now. And the Optimus spot right now, all it can do is clench. That's the 11-degree freedom hand. And we've heard about this 22-degree freedom hand. With a 22-degree freedom hand, the bot will be able to do this. And Elon said it will be able to play the piano. Now, evidently, you can play the piano by being able to do this. However, we found out from people who were in the special tour, we saw them the night before and we primed them to ask about certain movements. It will not be able to do this. Okay? That requires individual movement of the fingers. See, all the fingers have to move together. If the fingers move individually, that means you have to have an actuator. An actuator is just a fancy word for a motor, okay? You would have to have one for each. So you'd have to go from 6 motors or 6 actuators to 10 to do that. So they're probably just adding one to it. And they're looking at getting the cost down. Now, Elon announced that it will cost about $10,000 to build this at scale. Okay, and then he mentioned something about $20,000 probably for purchase. However, you probably won't be able to purchase it right away because I don't know if any of you know a gentleman by the name of Cern Basher. He's an awesome name. He's a good friend of mine. He also lives down in Sarasota. He does all these different financial models, and he's been doing a lot of models of Optimus. And he got a reply from Elon today looking at that. And what is the sales model going to be? And Elon said it will be available for rent or to buy. But the first one, at first. So that means at first you're only going to be able to rent the bot, and then eventually you'll be able to buy it. So that's some of the information that we've had, which is important. He also said that next year expect about 1,000 Optimi, okay, that's a proper Latin plural of Optimi, working in the Tesla factories. So 1,000, that means it could effectively be doing the work of 2,000 to 3,000 workers, because remember, it can work 3 shifts, or employees, let's get it that way. So that's possible, and then after that, it's able to scale. Now, before they do that, they have one more revision they want to do in the bot, and that's what we guess, because they went from 22 degrees of freedom, 11 to 22. You don't stop here, you do the whole body. So by the end of the year, they'll have that, they will be ready to scale, and I think there was, one other interesting thing. There's 2 bots right now working in the factories. One of the members of the Optimus team posted last night that, we've got 2 working in the factories. How soon do you think before we have 10? All right, do you think he really wants us to guess, or do you think they're about to have 10 working in the factory? Yeah. Yes, it's moving quite quickly. And believe it or not, I've been dominating this guy over here. He's the one that likes to speak the most. Go ahead, John. Come on.
And there is another thing that should be noted. I did confirm this within the dirty household in the corner, that since Chris has taken on a new passion for cleaning his vehicles, that Optimus Bot actually means something very special to him. So he's very much looking forward to the help cleaning his vehicles with Optimus Bot.
All right, anyway, on to the next topic here. It fundamentally breaks the whole idea of an economy if you have unlimited labor. Because that's, in the past, my big thing for Tesla was always, energy. Energy is the #1 commodity the whole world wants. They want, it's mostly oil, but it's changing over to renewables and batteries. And Tesla's going to dominate with energy eventually. And once the Optimus stuff came out, it's like, we're past that. It's actually labor. That's even more than energy. And that'll be, I don't know, it's just going to change everything, as you guys said.
Yeah, again, CERN's models are like, he works them out and he says these numbers are nutty, and he keeps on dividing by 10 and dividing by 10. He says they're still nutty. And Elon also says, what does an economy mean? And you start thinking about it, and something changes. The early days, it'll be replacing the labor that we don't have right now. So if everyone's like, we're going to lose our jobs tomorrow, no. Actually, there are labor shortages, and there are huge labor shortages right now in the orders of millions. And it's going to take like a decade to backfill those. But so there's going to be the slow opportunity to do the transition from that. But in the meantime, what that means is that you will get better productivity, inflation will come down because you won't have these labor shortages, and the jobs will be taking over the jobs that people don't want to have. As a matter of fact, some of the robot companies that are going into these companies are saying, are you planning to lay off any workers if you use this? And if they say, yes, we are, they're like, we're not interested. They do not really want to displace workers. And some of them have gone in and they are filling in the jobs, like during holiday season when they just can't find the workers to be able to do it. So that's something that Agility Bots have been doing. So I don't think it means, for the next 10 years that suddenly the economy is going to change. But past that, it gets funny. And even CERN's models, he was looking at it and says, if Tesla deploys like 1.5 million Tesla bots, it can add close to $1 trillion to the valuation of Tesla. That's why he says it's nutty, because like 1.5 million Tesla bots, that's a small number, that's nothing. What do you do when you have 10 million or 100 million?
So how many people are familiar with AWS, Amazon's Web Services? Oh, quite a few. So, Amazon's AWS arose from Christmas season, basically, the kind of 6 weeks before Christmas when everybody gets online and orders presents. This is like over a decade ago. And they had to build out these huge server farms to be able to handle that kind of load of compute requirements. And I'm starting to think about, like, there's a couple of things. Number one is like the cybercab, robotaxi, whatever you want to call it. You're going to have to build that for peak usage at whatever place you are. And then you have a bunch of extra cabs around. The same thing for Optimus. You're going to have to build that for sort of peak necessity. You're talking about like Christmas time. You made me think about that. Okay, so you need all of these here because everybody wants to take a vacation for a week or something. You need to fill them in. So Tony Seba, Adam Dorr, and RethinkX, they've talked about this a lot. And same thing with energy. You build energy out for the peak requirements. once you have this stuff, once you have all of these cars, these can all do inference. They can all do crypto mining. They can all do large language model inference, all of that kind of stuff right now, just with the right infrastructure behind it. So once you build out this infrastructure, that's the place where things really change. The marginal cost of energy goes to zero. The marginal cost of compute goes to kind of zero. The marginal cost of labor goes close to zero. So that's where things really get nuts, and it's very difficult to even imagine it. And you know, I try to wrap my brain around it, but it's like I have a failure of imagination. But it really does change the very nature of the way that we're going to think about society, and hopefully in a very good way. It's probably going to be disruptive for a while. I imagine that some cybercabs are going to get burned and graffitied on the streets. It's the way it goes. But I think once people realize that it's actually saving them a lot of money and making their lives better, and that, you know, maybe these extra cars that are out there when they're off peak will be doing compute and also generating answers for you from your AI, your Apple phone, your iPhone or Android or whatever, and you're like, I need an answer to this, or write me a poem or something, and it just is doing it, and it's actually a Tesla that's doing that inference. This is the kind of it's like just the world gets completely different than it is right now, and could happen really, really quickly. It's amazing.
Just a quick safety note to everybody out there. Please do not try to close a frunk of a Cybertruck on your fingers.
Yes, bad idea.
Tesla fix, I'm talking to you.
All right, I want to move on to something that I was very excited about the bot, so thank you both. It's great. I'm very excited about that. Something that we're probably all a little more familiar with and able to actually use in our daily lives. How many people have FSD on their cars out there? Holy moly, look at that. So yeah, that's a lot of people. Cybertruck people, you can stand back. You don't have any FSD, sorry. It's amazing because if you think, we're talking about these time differences. If we go back, you got to go back about 5 years now, or 4.5 years or so. It would have been, a couple of people here would have had that, and the couple of people here who had that, their car would have been running them off the road every couple of miles. And it was this crazy almost experiment of getting this technology out. Like, we got to get started somewhere. We got to start collecting more data because Tesla needed more data to make this better. And you fast forward to today, and anyone in the US or Canada can pick up a Model 3 and they can subscribe to FSD for $99 a month, and they can go and their car can self-drive them all over the place. Of course, it needs a little help, it needs some supervision, but it's pretty amazing that in that short time, Tesla went, if you go back to the beginning of Tesla when they didn't exist to today, now they have self-driving cars, self-driving all over the place. So, but into the future, it's not actually self-driving. You're still supervising it. It still makes mistakes often enough that it's not like you could take a nap or not pay attention or something. So going forward, Justin, where do you see this going in the short and medium term in terms of the value we're going to get out of this?
Yeah, I think that the short term is a good way to look at it from like an investor standpoint. I like to look at it more long term, bigger picture here, because full self-driving means more than the convenience of having a car drive you to where you want, or the party tricks or whatever. Like, it's going to change people's lives. I've met so many people over the years where whether they have a vision impairment or elderly and can't drive, and what this really does is unlock access to transportation. But it also, even beyond those limited groups of people, there's much larger minorities who are underserved in different cities across the country, and this gives them access. And I can't take credit for that thought. It was during my studies, one of the girls, when we were talking about Uber, she said Uber changed everything for her because now she can get a ride. And I didn't understand, and everybody didn't really understand until she said, because the neighbor I live in, and I am black, I cannot get a cab to come pick me up. So for Uber, she didn't have to show her face. It didn't matter. The car came and picked her up. So it gave her access to transportation, and that is what FSD is going to do on a whole nother level. It's going to change lives. And I'm not a TSLA guy or anything like that, so I'm not a pumper. I truly believe it's going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's that's a great perspective. Thank you. In that there's plenty of people who don't have, they can't drive even if they want to, and now, eventually, one day, this car will be able to just pick them up and the cost will plummet. Again, eventually, that's the goal, is the cost of each mile is going to be a 10th or a 100th of what you would be paying today for an Uber, for example, or a taxi.
Right, and then once you have robotaxi, then the next question is, okay, now we don't have all these cars commuting into town and they're not stuck there. What do we do with all these parking garages and all these wasted spaces where cars have to be? You know, there's a lot of opportunities to make big impact even in the places that we live and love. So, you know, what are we going to do with these spaces? We need to have good intentions on how we utilize that space. I read a really interesting study on what the financial impact will be to the economy, and it said something like full self-driving cars are going to remove $1 trillion from the automotive industry, because it's all the reaching aspects of it. It's insurance, it's the car itself, it's gas will no longer be used or whatever, and maintenance. So all these things change. So where will that $1 trillion of economic spending, where will that now go? Where can we spend our money now other than our cars? If you think about your car payment and your insurance, if you didn't have that, you know, think for a little bit. What would you rather do with that money if you didn't have to own a car?
Right, and especially us being in Michigan right now, I'm sorry, even though I obviously live here and I know I'm in Michigan, when I'm at these events, I'm always in like Texas or California or something. Michigan is very much a commuter state. Everyone drives everywhere. We don't have very good public transport. We have a little bit, but cars are needed to do anything here, to have a job, to go to the grocery store, to kind of do whatever you want. So to have an option that can come pick you up if you don't want to have to own it in a state like this is just unbelievable, because pretty much everyone has to own at least one car, usually two. So John, I'm going to ask you something hard, do something hard here. So right now, again, we've come a long way. If you look at the beginning of FSD from 4 or so years ago, and then you look at it today, it's very impressive. If you know nothing and you get in this FSD car, it may still scare you pretty good. So
Yeah, absolutely.
in your mind, it's very impressive, but it still can do some goofy things. In your mind, what is kind of Tesla's limiting factor at this point in terms of what they need to do to get this to the next step, where any one individual, such as myself, is going to have a hard time finding the car making mistakes? Because if we get to 1,000 miles per intervention or 10,000 miles per intervention, it's going to be tough to see it make these mistakes. So what are they looking for now that compute doesn't seem to be the problem?
Elon just said it 2 days ago at the shareholder meeting. He talked about how the limiting factor for them right now is that when they, I know, Jordan, you get the shout out all day long. So wherever you are, hey, there he is. Okay, the limiting factor. We'll just keep saying the limiting factor, the limiting factor. The problem is, Elon expressed it, was that there are so few interventions now that if they want to A/B test 2 different versions of their new model, that they can't tell which one's better anymore. So they're like, we don't know. So I think there was a minor, how many people got the minor bug fix update like yesterday, day before? Yeah, a lot of people. That took a long time to install, right? For a minor bug, it seemed to take forever. I think that they snuck a shadow mode for like 12.4 or 12.5 into there, because I think that they need millions upon millions of miles to be driven in shadow mode, which is where it's deciding what to do but not actively driving, and then comparing it to what the human does. And so they just need like insane amounts of mileage. And this is the reason why I don't think anybody can catch Tesla, because they just, as Stephen Mark Ryan says, the unassailable data lead. The other thing that's really interesting to me, and that Elon didn't talk about it, and I really wanted to ask him, I was in line to talk to him at the meeting and missed it by a couple, but I wanted to ask him about, what do you do at some point? Human drivers, we're not perfect, right? So we're better than FSD was 2 years ago, no doubt. But it's starting to get to the point now where a lot of drivers are probably worse than full self-driving, right? The bottom of the bell curve, the people who are, yeah, I know, we're all above average here. Everyone here is above average. But just like Lake Wobegon, but somewhere there's below average drivers. And there we go. So everybody, as the full self-driving gets better and better and better, eventually it's going to start making better decisions than humans, and then what do you do? Because you can't depend on a human as the ground truth, as the correct thing to do anymore. That's a very interesting, and we're getting kind of close to that. He said 1,000 miles per intervention. I'm like, I don't think so. He said that. He said 1,000 miles per intervention. It does not feel like that to me yet. No.
That was San Francisco miles.
Yeah, I think so. And it really does matter. I've driven all around the country. When you go to the Bay Area, the car is rock solid. When you're in Michigan, maybe not so much. When you're in Florida, maybe not so, other states, even Texas, where they are now, is not as good. It doesn't do those like weird U-turn things. Because every road locality is just a little bit different. And the car is just better in some places than others. So anyway, so it's got that catching up to do as well. But eventually that's going to become the problem is just humans. We're not good enough drivers to teach it anymore. You can think about the Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid or something, right? At some point, the Karate Kid comes better than the master, and it's like, well, then what do you do? I don't have an answer to that, but it's a really interesting question.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got a question for all the FSD drivers that are out there. Do you know what the name of the car is on the display that you look at? What that's referred to as? The ego car, right? So everyone knows that's the ego car. So I think a lot of you have had the situation where it kind of comes up to maybe a stop sign and it starts to act a little bit hesitant or doesn't quite want to make that turn. Do you know what that's called? It's a fragile ego. All right. Now you know sometimes you gotta put your foot on the accelerator to kind of get it to go through. You know what that's called? It's giving it an ego boost. All right. And now when it starts going off the road, what's that called? An egomaniac.
Yeah.
All right. But then you have the situation where it's like rock solid, stays right in the middle lane the whole time and won't move. You know what that is? It's egocentric. Yes, very good. Thank you very much.
Go. And that, by the way, is a bunch of dad jokes in honor of Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to everybody.
That's
and
right.
I think we're done, right?
all right, yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the talk. We'll get to talk to you down there if anyone wants to ask us any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and the next half hour will be hosted by John from Tesla Owners Club Silicon Valley. He's going to be doing interpretive dancing for 30 minutes. So make sure you get comfortable. It's going to be a good show.
Speaking of the Bay Area,